What if I told you that one civilization helped invent paper, built one of the greatest engineering marvels in history, created philosophies still followed today, and was ruled by an emperor so obsessed with immortality that he may have accidentally poisoned himself trying to live forever? Welcome to ancient China, a civilization thousands of years old that shaped not only Asia but the entire world. From warrior emperors and massive armies, to silk, philosophy, and inventions centuries ahead of their time, this is the story of one of history's greatest civilizations. Ancient China began over 4,000 years ago, growing along the fertile banks of the Yellow River, often called the cradle of Chinese civilization. But life here wasn't easy. The river brought rich soil for farming, but devastating floods that could wipe out entire villages overnight. Early Chinese communities had to adapt quickly, and over time, powerful kingdoms emerged. China would eventually be ruled through a series of dynasties, families that controlled the empire for generations. Some rose to greatness, others collapsed into chaos, and one dynasty would change China forever. Around 221 BC, a ruler named Qin Shi Huang accomplished something no one had before. He united China. Before him, rival kingdoms constantly fought brutal wars for power. But Qin crushed them all and declared himself China's first emperor. And he ruled with absolute authority. Think of him as part military genius, part dictator. He standardized currency, weights, and even the writing system, making communication and trade easier across the empire. But he also ruled through fear. Books that challenged his ideas were burned, critics were punished harshly, and entire populations were forced into massive construction projects, including the early version of the Great Wall of China. No, it wasn't the giant wall tourists see today. That came later. But Qin connected defensive walls to protect China from northern invasions. And then there was his obsession with death. Qin Shi Huang desperately wanted to live forever. He sent expeditions searching for magical elixirs of immortality. Ironically, historians believe many of the immortality medicines he consumed contained mercury, which may have actually killed him. But his tomb, that remains one of archaeology's greatest mysteries. Buried with him was the Terracotta Army, over 8,000 life-sized soldiers, horses, and chariots, built to protect him in the afterlife. And many parts of his tomb remain unopened to this day. After the fall of the Qin came the Han Dynasty, often considered ancient China's first true golden age. If Qin built the foundation, the Han made China flourish. During this period, China expanded massively and became one of the most powerful empires on Earth. Trade exploded thanks to the Silk Road, a network of trade routes stretching thousands of miles from China all the way to Europe and the Middle East. China exported silk so valuable that many outsiders guarded its secrets obsessively. Seriously, smuggling silkworms could be punishable by death. But China wasn't just trading luxury goods, it was inventing the future. The Chinese developed paper, transforming how knowledge was recorded. They improved the compass, changing navigation forever. They pioneered advances in medicine, engineering, and astronomy. At a time when much of the world still relied heavily on oral tradition, Chinese scholars were documenting history with remarkable detail. And speaking of scholars, ancient China deeply valued education. Government officials often earned power through difficult examinations rather than noble birth, a system centuries ahead of its time. But ancient China wasn't only built by emperors and armies, it was shaped by ideas. One of the most influential thinkers in history was Confucius. He taught values like respect, discipline, family loyalty, and moral leadership. His teachings shaped Chinese society for over 2,000 years, and still influence cultures today. Then came Taoism, associated with the philosopher Lao Tzu, which encouraged people to live in harmony with nature and embrace balance. Instead of forcing life, go with the flow. Kind of like ancient China's version of work smarter, not harder. And later, Buddhism spread into China from India, adding even more spiritual influence. Together, these ideas helped shape everyday life, government, education, and even how families interacted. Ancient China wasn't just another civilization. It helped shape the modern world. Paper, printing, gunpowder, the compass, political systems, philosophies still studied today. Even foods, trade routes, and technologies that spread across continents. And through thousands of years of wars, dynasties, and dramatic rise and fall stories, Chinese civilization endured. Empires collapsed, dynasties disappeared, but the culture survived. Because ancient China wasn't built in decades, it was built over millennia. And its influence? You're still living with it today. What part of ancient China surprised you most? The first emperor? The Terracotta Army? Or the fact that paper, a thing we barely think about today, changed human history forever? Let me know in the comments, and if you enjoyed this journey through history, subscribe for more stories from the civilizations that shaped our world.